Hello, Instagram.
Hey, Instagram. Graham.
All right, we are live.
Hey, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Blended Life Podcast. I am Eric. This is my wife, Julie.
Hey, everyone.
And we are the Blended Life. What's tonight's topic about?
Well, my mom actually was like, you guys left last week's podcast off on such a cliffhanger. People are going to want to tune in tonight and see what's what. If we're still talking, if we're still married.
Did you bring the boxing gloves home?
No.
Oh, all right.
So I feel like we need to finish up that conversation a little bit.
I don't even remember what it was, but welcome to our marriage, right? Forget the conversation.
Okay, this is interesting because you say we live in two different worlds.
No, I don't say that. You say we live in two different worlds.
That's what you told our therapist last week. We
Because
live in two different worlds.
Because you always tell me that.
Well, I think it's just we have conversations.
Starting to remember what last week's conversation was about.
No, but I think we often in our marriage have conversations and the other person doesn't listen.
No, it's not that we don't listen. It's that we just...
We're doing other things.
Yeah, and we end up just going to the... Speaking for myself, I end up just going to the next topic. You know, what's the next thing in the house I have to fix?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot going on.
Yeah.
And so I think it's very rare for married couples to give each other their undivided attention. Mm-hmm. Because you got kids in the background, you got work in the background, you've got, what do I have to fix? I mean, your brain, even if you're physically alone, I think that your brain is so consumed with so many other things besides what your spouse is saying. See, right now.
I'm listening. We're so consumed with everything, you don't hear what your spouse is saying. Yes.
No, but I'm
looking at our people on Instagram. We got a thumbs up. Hey,
Hi,
guys.
everyone. Thanks for joining us, Instagram family.
Yeah.
We're glad you're here.
If you have questions, you guys, feel free to type them, and I will read them sideways. Sorry that the feed is sideways, but it's so you can see both of us when it's normal.
You're the pretty one, if we're being honest.
Well, thanks,
We
handsome.
could just have it put it on you.
Oh, right.
Anyway, but last week we kind of left off on, you said that, which was actually brand new information to me. You've never framed it up like that for me before. So remember when I told you that I didn't want to have kids with you on our podcast, and you were like, oh, okay. Even though we knew that, it was kind of a moment.
You remember when I told the kids I don't want to have kids?
But then, so last week, it was kind of my turn to sit there and be like, okay, where you said that one of our biggest marriage struggles, or I forget, divides was that I put my kids first. Because I was saying how divorce made me, how it led up to it, is I acknowledged, which I want to touch on for a second too,
Okay.
You know, that divorce made me a better mom. And that's a very controversial thing to say.
And this podcast made me speak less.
It's true for me, just because I was so unhappy in my marriage, and my marriage was so full of conflict that I wasn't able to be fully present in my mind for my children. I've always been there for my kids. So I don't want people to get that twisted that I somehow wasn't there for my kids. I have always been there. But I mean, I think I was just so mentally exhausted, frustrated, done, hurt, sad.
You just shut down over time.
Yeah, so it's kind of like if you are an unhappy parent, your kids suffer.
Yeah.
So when that melted away and I was able just to have my focus I didn't realize how much of my focus and how much of my emotional energy was going towards the negativity that my marriage was, until it was gone, and it was like a cloud lifted, the sun came shining through, and I saw my kids, and I'm like, oh,
they're the only thing good
there
at that
you
point.
are.
Yeah.
You know, and I was able to just put my focus on them, you know, and I was a single mom, and that's kind of what single moms do, right? I mean, it's work and provide and your kids. That's kind of the pattern.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's how I got into divorce made me a better mom, a more mindfully present, emotionally available, healthy, happy mom.
Well, and I think most people can relate that have been through divorce, or if you're a single parent for any reason, that it really, your children are your only thing to hang on to at that point. It's the only thing left that feels whole, that feels right, that usually you're not having issues with or problems with. I mean, unless your kids are teenagers or something.
Well, and I think when you
So that's
get,
just normal.
hey, Jess just chimed in and
Hi,
said,
Jess.
hi, Thursday night buddies for real, girl. Anyway, but I think that when you know, you're so, your kids definitely lose out in divorce, but they can also win in divorce.
Yeah, but
And I know that's a really backwards way of saying, but I think that's when you know divorce is right. Like in my case, this was a better alternative for my children. They have 2 homes with 2 married like 2 sets of married parents who love each other, and they're in 2 functional households with lots of love.
yeah.
That was a way better alternative than had their dad and I stayed together. It would have been toxic, mean, unloving, the worst example for a marriage you could ever hope for your kids. And so, you know, here we are, and they're better off for it.
Yeah.
There. But anyway, so you go ahead and tell me that my focus on my kids last week, you said that it was a big divide in our marriage. And then I turned around.
I've moved on to the next topic.
But I don't think other people, I think that we ended so abruptly. We talked about this
We were
for like
10
2
minutes over time.
seconds.
Yeah.
So I feel like it needs a revisit because I think a lot of blended families go through this. This is not unique to us.
No,
this is
because
a common thing.
It's because you, for lack of a better term, latch onto your kids in those dark times. You know, your kids are the only thing making you feel whole, and they're the only ones that you feel true love by. You know, you can't let them down. You're worried for their safety. You know, you're hyper focused on your children.
And they just, for me at that time, they were truly the only thing that made me happy.
Right.
Work didn't make me happy. My friendships, you know, holler at me if you guys know this too. When you get divorced, you lose half your friends.
Yep.
Because they take sides, or they don't want to take sides, or they feel like they don't agree with divorce. They morally are against what you're doing. So, you know, friendships were kind of sketch then. You're not going out because you want to keep your head down. You know, the court, you don't want to be taken to court and be accused of things. I don't know. It was a dark time. And so really I think you latch on to what makes you happy. You need that joy. And my kids have just always brought me joy.
Yeah.
So.
And they still do. I see so much joy brought to you by your children every single time that you get them. I mean, it hasn't happened lately, but there would be times where we wouldn't have our kids for a few days at a time. It would be the other family's time.
Mm-hmm.
You know exactly where I'm going with this.
Mm-hmm. That's fine.
And
Bring it on. Here we are.
You get depressed.
Yeah.
And there's times where you'll break down and you'll cry. And you're like, I just miss my kids. I just miss my children.
You never get used to missing your kids.
You don't. However,
it's just a real thing. I'm a
you
woman.
learn.
I'm emotional.
Yeah. So is Bruce Jenner.
Oh, okay. So you learn. What am I supposed to learn?
Well, you learn to use that time to connect with your spouse, to go to Costco, to fix things around the house, to have a weekend like we just had, where it's just you and I, and we're focusing on you and I, but also family. You know, we're setting up the week for success, right? We're working on our family and ourselves at the same time. But if you go into the state of, I'm depressed, I miss my children, and you're dwelling on this, that leaves a divide between you and I. We can't, I mean, I guess we can connect at that point, but it's like, you know, you know where I'm going with this?
I understand what you're saying, and I think you're a man. That's a very male thing to say.
Thank you. I think I am too.
Look, I think that in times, like, I'm going to get sad, I'm going to get depressed.
Right.
It's going to happen.
Right, that's all right.
To expect me never to miss my kids would be unreasonable and unrealistic.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm saying.
So I guess it's, you know, learning your spouse, and we'll make it more general so we don't get into it. But I think if your spouse is having a hard time, then I think it's your job to, like, let's call a timeout and talk about what's going on.
Right.
I see that you're struggling. you know? So you go to your spouse, say, hey, I see you're struggling. Are you missing your kids? Yeah, I really am having a hard time with that. I know, hon, that's got to be really hard.
Right.
You know, give me a hug. That doesn't happen. This doesn't happen. You've never been like, I see that you're really sad.
Give me a hug.
Like, give me a hug and be like, hey, let's turn this weekend around. Like, sometimes.
But I'll stop and ask, what can I do? What can I, is there anything I can do?
You're just asking the wrong questions. I'm
well,
sorry.
Then, you know what? In that
I just
time,
gave you a script.
In that time, you need to take your blended life card and you need to write down the questions. And then you hand that thing to me.
Dude.
And then I will ask those questions as you need. But
well, it's just this is it. You know, we're early on in our marriage.
Right.
You know, we haven't been together. We've been together 7 years.
I'm gonna read this. I'm listening.
Yeah, we've been together like 7 years, married for a little over a year. So we're still new, and it takes time to learn your spouse. It takes time to learn, cues and how to comfort them and how to react to them. You know, everyone's so different in that regard. For me, it's kind of like acknowledge how I'm feeling. I'm not asking you to fix it, but it needs to be okay for me to feel how I'm feeling. And this isn't just with my kids. This is across the board. It's like acknowledge your spouse's feelings. Let it be okay that they're feeling that way, and then encourage them to move on from those feelings.
I totally
encourage
agree.
them. Like, hey, let's get out of here. Like, what can we go do right instead of what can I do for you? Be like, what can we go do?
Yeah.
It's how you, if you ask your kids, did you have a good day? Yes, you're going to get a one-word answer. If you ask your kids.
Or if you ask my kid, he'll say no.
But if you ask your kids, tell me something you learned today.
Right.
You'll get more of a response.
So I totally get it.
It's a life lesson.
Well,
what you ask.
And one of our viewers made a really good point that it's just such an unnatural thing when you're away from your children.
Absolutely.
When you have children, you don't go into it going, hey, we're just going to divide this and I'm only going to be with them half their life now.
Totally.
And I remember that reality sinking in where I'm like, I'm sitting there in a courtroom when we are granted 50-50 custody and it just sinks in like, man, there goes half of my children's life that I am going to miss.
Totally.
But if you can learn to get on the same page with your ex and you can co-parent and you can work with your ex, I don't miss 50% of my child's life or my children's life.
You have and we've talked about this to death on here, but
right.
You have a very different reality with your ex than I do with mine.
But it didn't start out that way, which everyone knows. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
But to my point, that if you can get on a good page with them and as they get older, because for these new freshly divorced or just blending family and you're still dealing with that, the reality of, oh man, I'm going to miss half my kid's life. Well, that's technically not true.
Unless you do have a tough co-parenting situation, and then it's devastating.
Right.
And I'd be lying to say there's been times where I'm completely jealous of you.
Oh, I see it. And
I know.
And I don't have the heart to call you out on it.
Oh, it wouldn't matter if you call me out on it. It's just is what it is.
It is what it is. But I don't have the heart to be like,
let's
talk about this.
No, but you have been like, you have gotten in my face a little bit. Like,
in your face?
Like
so mean.
No, but you have been like, well, listen, if you could have it this way too, you would.
You would.
Would
you not?
You have put me in my place a few times
but not
about
like that.
it.
I don't.
You did exactly
okay.
that.
Okay.
You did. I remember it because it was shocking. I'm like, oh, okay.
Don't press.
It was alarming and shocking because you don't normally speak to me like that. I think you just had enough, and that's fine. You have a breaking point. I have a breaking point.
Yeah.
I'm not mad at you for that. It's the truth. It's the very harsh
truth.
It's
awesome being able to, like I've communicated with both my kids today,
Yeah, you're lucky.
Daughter's like, hey, I might swing by and she's going to stop by tomorrow after school to have lunch and hang out, like that's awesome.
Yeah.
Talk to my son, a couple times and I'm sure I'll talk to him again later.
You talk to him a million times a day.
Yeah. But when it's just small chit chat,
yeah,
it is what it is.
But it is hard being a parent who wishes so much that it could be that way.
Because
and then you sit with somebody and it's in your face constantly that you
the hard
talk
part
to your kids, that your kids drop by, that you can go get your kids. And I'm
what's
sitting
hard
over
about
here
this,
just
though?
Jealous.
Yeah, and that's the hard part. And then that makes me aware that you're jealous and that you have a hard time with this because you can't talk to your kids when they're at the other house. Your son has a phone. He won't call you. He won't answer calls. He won't text you back. You know,
he's very scared and timid about
right.
what the
So
wrath
you
is going to
don't.
be.
So you literally have 50-50 custody.
I
Like,
miss out on half of their lives.
literally cut and dry.
Yep.
Now, what this does is, you know, my son texts me. You know, usually more my son than my daughter, but he'll text me, and it almost puts me on. It makes me feel like I'm doing something wrong because of the jealousy. And
Well, and it's not just jealousy about that. I don't begrudge you talking to your son.
Okay.
But sometimes when we're just trying to have us time, there's no like boundaries there. Like for 2 hours, I'm just going to put my phone down.
Oh, I totally will do that. Like, I'm not
You
worried about
don't.
that. But if we're laying there hanging out, I'm on the couch, you're on the chair, and we're sitting
Yeah.
there watching TV, or we're laying side by side in bed,
Yeah.
then phones are out because, let's face it, like,
Yeah.
you're on social media a lot. I'm usually
Yes,
hanging out on
well,
social media.
Social media.
Yeah, well, I don't have a lot of social media, but, you know,
Yeah.
I'll check things.
Yeah.
Part of it's my work, but if we want those boundaries, we need to set those boundaries.
And we're not good at having those conversations.
It's communication
outside of podcasting.
Right, right.
Really.
So we're solving problems right now,
Yeah.
but
But
really,
I mean, I would like to throw that out there too. It's a good lesson for blended families. You know, you need to have time with your spouse without the kids. And I'm not just talking to the kids physically, but like, you know, maybe not need to text them for 2 hours. You know, like you can have a time that is just dedicated to make your spouse feel special. The kids feel special all the time. They're put first.
Right.
They need to be put first. They're children.
Right.
We're adults. We don't need that. But, you know, I think that it is being cognizant and making an effort to really just give your spouse that time and attention, because I will tell you, step parenting is a lot of jealousy. You know, you haven't said the word jealous, but that's kind of what you were alluding to last week, where you feel like I put my kids before you and that makes you jealous. Like you want that, or it comes before you, or
no, that's not what I was trying to
is
basically.
a struggle in our marriage.
Yeah, I was trying to say that a lot of times it will
affect how our time is spent.
Yeah, or it draws between us somehow.
Yeah.
You know, there's
I get
different
it.
things that like, hey, we could be doing this, but no, we can't do that because I have to go do something, you know. I have to be somewhere. You know what I mean? There's lots of different circumstances.
And that's on both ends of our lives. You know, I mean, and then I think I also brought up the last week in retaliation to your comment, like that you openly call your son your best friend, and that's not me.
But
and
it's
again,
more,
it's kind of like,
yeah, but it's such a lighthearted manner. I mean, really.
No, I mean, you didn't even mean to. You wrote this letter about our blended family, describing our family. That wasn't lighthearted. That was like you're just introducing us.
Yes, but you're taking it totally out of context. You're going like total
You said
MSNBC on me right now.
No, you said my son is my best friend. And it is what it is. But that also, I'm sorry if you don't want to see that right now. I get that. It's not a flattering thing, but you know, that also creates a divide in our marriage.
No, I totally,
It
yes.
does. Both
Okay.
ends. Like, I'm just trying to say, like, you want me to sit here and take what you have to say, which I'm like, you're right. You know, but the shoe's also on the other foot with you.
Yeah, I'm not saying like I'm not guilty of that whatsoever. I totally hear you. But
yeah.
Yes. What would you like me to say?
No, I just want you to be like, receive that.
I totally
without being
received.
like, oh, I just mean it's lighthearted and try
totally
to like
received. Yes.
Try to like defend it.
Yeah.
You
totally
know?
received.
Okay. Totally received on my. We are so received up in here, you guys. It's insane.
What's tonight's podcast about?
So then
we know what last week's was about.
Well, and then I just kind of want to talk about. So then, if this is you guys too, you know, children only so children come between marriages. I hear this a lot in step families, right? Especially when you have his and her kids. And I want to put out there too that kids only come between two people, like two spouses, or challenge your marriage if it's allowed. Right? So I don't think it's on the kids. I think it's on the parents. Like, you and your spouse are allowing your kids at some point to create a divide. You know, your relationship with your children, if that's the issue, begins and ends with you. So I think that kids unfortunately get the brunt of, oh, these kids are ruining my marriage. I read it all the time.
I'm thinking about this right
on
now.
social media.
You're saying this, and we have two totally different types of kids
Mm-hmm.
that could, where the children could affect the marriage in two totally different ways.
Absolutely.
And
yes.
And here's the way I see our marriage, and you might totally agree with me or totally think I'm wrong, but I feel like my son in particular, he could affect our marriage. He could work his way between you and I. He is the one who voices more of his opinion, and at the end of the day, he could be the one between us. Now, when it comes to your children, I don't see your children wiggling their way in between us. Your children are happy with us the way it is, but I see the way, what I was talking about last week, as you put yourself in between us.
So it's your son and myself that's the problem.
I don't think any of it's a problem. I think we mitigate it just fine. I think that we play both sides, and we work it out to where,
it's a tightrope.
It works fine.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying the difference in children. Some children don't have any say or any dogs in the fight. They don't care about it, and that's your children. Your kids are totally fine.
My kids don't really try to manipulate the situation.
And,
they're not they don't try to they're not after, my son in particular is just happy to be, period. He doesn't really need a whole lot of attention. He is a good kid. He's kind of benign. He doesn't require a lot of attention. My daughter is super needy. She's 9, so she's still on that, I'm caught between being a little kid and a big kid. And, she's the only other girl in the house, right? Uh-huh. There's 3 boys in the house, and there's 2 of us girls that live here. And so she's also, super just needy still.
Yeah.
Which I don't hate because I'm a mom.
She's very needy, but she's also, she's growing up, lack of a better term, she's got a bit of an attitude on her.
A bit. I'm so scared.
She's so well behaved and so well mannered, and you're able to rope it in fine.
Yeah.
But sometimes I just want and I've gotten a little more comfortable with doing it, but you're not gonna talk to your mom like that. You need to stop.
Cole gets
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. But my son gets so angry at her for this exact same thing.
It's not all right.
Yeah. He gets very, very upset.
And it takes you a long time to hear it. You're very deaf to it.
I know. She's my baby. I know. Well, she's the baby of the family.
She is.
She's the youngest of
she's
this household. She's the youngest at the other household, too.
Yeah.
So she genuinely has that baby syndrome, which gets away with everything, needs for everything.
Yeah.
And so they're all just different.
They're all different, but they're at the end of the day, they are all good kids.
Yeah. So
and we're blessed with them.
I think that kids don't come between spouses as much as, behaviors are allowed. So if you're allowing your child to behave in a way that could come between you and your spouse, you're allowing that behavior at the end of the day.
Well, and you also
so I think it just ends with parent.
It ultimately ends with the parents.
It does,
right on.
Yes. And so what the kids are how they are allowed to behave is on you. What you allow to come in between your marriage, whether it's your children or an affair or you're a workaholic or money, whatever the thing is that's going to come between and divide you, is you ultimately have the power.
Yep.
And I just want to say, parents, please be empowered. And step-parents, stop blaming the child. Yeah. Start focusing on your spouse and yourself. These poor kids they're confused. They're in a tug of war of sorts between parents, and they'll get away with what they can to survive, to be as happy as they can. So, just want to put that out there.
No, that's right on. It ultimately comes down to the parents.
Yeah.
It's up to us.
And communication and just being able to have tough conversations without being open. Being open to receive.
And watching what you say and call your children.
Okay. So that's our follow-up till the end of last week's podcast.
Does anyone have any questions?
He's like, I'm so over it. Are we done yet?
Yeah.
No.
Come on, someone ask a question quick.
No. So moving on though.
No, do it.
We have a good show tonight because
let's hear it.
What I wanted to talk about last week that we didn't even get to was counseling.
Yeah. You know what I love about our shows? Is, for instance, your parents just stopped by like literally 5 minutes before we started. They say, hey, what's tonight's show about? I said, I have no idea.
Oh. Well, that's why you have me.
Yes, I know. But I do all the talking.
Show.
Hang on, you guys. I'll start all the talking here in a moment.
Oh, do you have something you would like to? You can be in charge of the topics.
I learned my lesson. I learned my lesson last week.
Okay, you tell us what we're learning.
No, I learned my lesson. I love that you give us topics.
It's a good thing.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know. So confused. I know, me too. Like, let's just shoot each other in the head.
Oh, I missed. I shot you instead. Yes. Thank you.
You wish.
Yes.
But let's talk about counseling, because I want to talk about counseling. I want to talk about premarital counseling, which we did twice simultaneously. Yeah, I want to talk about that. But it's because we
liked the first one so much.
Yeah.
Which is so weird too. Are we millennials? I saw a funny meme the other day.
We technically are the very last of the millennials.
A funny meme the other day. It's like two people whispering about like what they talked about in therapy or counseling, and then like a millennial is like yelling it at the bar, like, oh my gosh, this is what happened in therapy. It's like two totally. So some people are like very reserved and quiet and don't want anyone to know that they ever went there, and then this, the stereotypical millennial type just is, they're all about it,
We're clearly millennials then.
Yeah. They're going to start like a wine bar therapy group session.
Well,
someone's going to make money.
Maybe somebody would get something out of it. I don't know. Okay, premarital counseling. And then we'll talk about, we are going to marriage counseling, and we'll talk about like why we are, and then how's it going?
Okay.
What problems is it causing in our marriage? But premarital counseling was the biggest fluff circle jerk thing I've ever done, because
it was awesome. We felt good about it. So good we went and got another one.
Yeah. So our premarital counseling was cakewalk, not challenging, not thought-provoking. Everyone told us we were perfect for each other.
I have to disagree.
You were challenged?
I don't think that it challenged us right then and there, but I think it set up a challenge for the future, because we are living out some of our challenges right now. We have to communicate 30 minutes a day with one another. We have to, or had to, start marital counseling.
That's why we are in it now.
6 months after being married.
Mm-hmm.
And then our next promise is, if at any point in time one of us want to go to counseling or think that we need
we're never going to stop going to counseling, are we?
That the other one has to abide and be like, all right, we're going to counseling then.
No
you can't
questions
say no.
asked.
Yeah. So those were our 3 promises. So I think that was kind of challenging, because I knew that you struggled on.
Yeah. That is true. That the first promise of communicating 30 minutes a day freaked me out.
Right.
I'm like, we're so busy, especially when you start working nights. We don't even see each other sometimes.
But we talk to each other.
I guess it adds up throughout the day. So it turns out it's not that hard to do.
Yeah.
I just think I don't make promises I can't keep.
But 30 minutes a day is such a small amount of time. If we barely meet that quota, it sounds like a lot more than what it really is. And to some people that might not even sound like it's a lot.
Clearly it's not enough.
No, you know what I mean?
Listen here.
But if you can communicate and talk more, it's only better. It's kind of like your pedometer on your watch or on your Fitbit or whatever.
You don't realize how many steps you're taking in a day.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to go walk 5 miles today or 12 miles today, whatever the mileage is.
Yeah.
You're like, there's no way I will do that. But all those little steps add up.
That's very true. And that is how it's been. And it hasn't been that big of a challenge. And even when you've been away, or, when we're not in the same city even, we check in throughout the day.
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing. But what I meant by that, it was like, we took tests to see if we were compatible. Both tests we got A's on. We discussed, household chores, who was going to do this, what were the expectations for that. And we were completely on the same page. Personality tests seemed to...
Apparently one of us lied a ton. No, I'm just kidding. I just knew what you wanted to hear. No, I'm totally kidding. I'm totally kidding. Thanks for doing my laundry. Where's my crickets button?
Anyway, so, all these different tests and things we talked about and discussed and we really aligned with. See, what it really did a disservice in is that we did not discuss anything to do with blending a family. And going forward, hindsight is 2020. I would have sought out premarital counseling for blended families. It would look completely different.
Does that exist? Have you ever
I've never seen it. I would love to start it myself.
Has anyone heard of it
Passion
before?
Project.
Let us know.
Yeah, if you guys have done this. But, things like discipline in your household. How does that look? Are we going to start calling each other mom and dad? How does that look?
You going to call me dad?
Daddy. I'll call you daddy later. But, just things like that weren't discussed.
Right.
Is the expectation that the other parent, the step parent, show up to all activities and doctor's appointments or not?
And dog neuterings.
And dog neuterings. Wow. We could do a sidebar. You want to talk about that?
I don't care. I'm not ashamed about anything. Like I took the dog to the neuters.
You did. So
it was nuts.
Okay.
He's got a cone of shame these days.
Yeah.
We should post a picture of it. He should be our thumbnail.
No.
Okay.
But anyway, so what I'm saying is that marriage counseling wasn't really great in the fact that it didn't help us start off our blended family or give us thought-provoking.
We were still just blind.
Yeah. Anyway, it was just a big fluffer session. It made us feel really good about choosing the other one, that we were going to have a great life, but it didn't talk about really, might have touched on finances a tad.
Yeah.
But
it totally did. Like we had a whole session about it.
Yeah. I don't know. It was just, I don't find it very helpful for a blended family. It was kind of a waste of time.
It was kind of like, hey, we're early 20s. Gonna get married. Are we compatible?
Yeah, it was like
we never. Lord?
Yes. Have you never been married? It was like we've never been married before. It was like we were clean slates.
However, we did discuss some of this. Some of this was discussed, and it wasn't like a blindside. We just didn't. We didn't talk about the issues that we thought we might have or the struggles that we thought we might have. It's not like we went into this like, hey, we don't have any children. We've never been married before. It wasn't one big lie. It was talked about, but it was all surface.
Yeah, it wasn't, vacations. How's that going to look? How is, communication with the exes? Is that going to cause problems? What are your jealousy issues going to be?
Not only could finances come between you, but could children come between you?
Yeah.
Because that's not something most families
deal with.
Yeah, biological families.
And premarital counseling, I feel like, is supposed to give you tools or at least open up discussions to hash out and bring to light things that could tear you apart later. Like, that's kind of the point of it. And so I loved our marriage counseling. It made me feel really great, but it was not sufficient for blended families.
Correct.
But I just don't think that may not exist, and maybe that needs to start.
Okay.
So
one more thing to do.
Yeah.
I'll get to it after the dishwasher.
Yeah, but like seriously, if you guys leave me a message, either you can email me or on any of our social media sites, message me. I would love to know what you wish you would have known or talked about with your spouse before you got married. You know, what are some things that you wish you would have hashed out or brought up? Or did you do blended family marriage premarital counseling? How did that go?
If
Who did that? Let me know. I want to contact them.
Yeah, well, and if people email you or message you about this, put them out there. If it's all right. You know, if you don't want her to put them out there, let her know when you message her.
Yeah, I'll promote you guys so much because it's a need.
Yeah. Well, and this is supposed to be a community. You know, the reason that we are doing this is to bring blended families together and help one another, because as you can see, it's not easy, and you'll always have an issue. And even when things are great, you'll always have an issue.
Yeah, you just have a lot more variables and moving pieces than a not divorced family situation. So we decided to go into marriage counseling because we promised that 6 months into our marriage, it was one of the things we got out of our premarital counseling were these 3 promises, which you just spoke about earlier. So we're doing this. My biggest problem with our marriage counselor is the lack of understanding of blended family.
Oh, you're talking about our first counselor?
No, I'm talking about currently.
Oh, current counselor.
Yeah, she's wonderful.
She's awesome.
But also, I think that there's a real need. Like, I love her. She's awesome. But there are some things she just can't understand because she's not in it.
Yeah.
You know, it is like, it's helpful. Like, I wish there were blended family counseling where we are, that somebody who's been in it can speak to it and can empathize where you're at. That would be, I would appreciate that, because sometimes I feel like, you know what I mean? She can't relate, and then it's kind of like you're getting put down, or
not me.
You know, but you know what I mean? You're made to feel bad about something that is very a natural reaction in a blended family, but probably not a natural reaction in a non-blended family. So to have that piece of understanding would just be awesome.
You know what else is just a huge variable to our blended family?
Okay. We're not talking about counseling anymore. That's fine.
No, it's part of counseling.
Oh.
Because it affects you in counseling as well.
Everything affects me, apparently.
Well, a big difference between you and I. I have 2 siblings, you know, who I grew up with. You grew up an only child. And I think that really plays a part in variables here, in the way that things happen in our family and the way you feel. I think a lot of the way that you feel and things that get brought up in counseling, that plays a big effect on it. And for instance, your children aren't only children, you know, but a lot of ways that you try to handle things with them, Christmas, birthdays, day-to-day things, a lot of it comes from a single, you know, being an only child
mentality.
Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that that's wrong.
It's the only box of tools I got.
But it's the only, yes.
Truly,
totally
I don't know any other way.
I
wasn't raised. This is why people don't, how you raise your kids will affect their relationships later with their bosses, with their spouses, with their own children, with their friends. Totally. I don't disagree with you. I have no idea what it's like to have siblings.
And you're honest about it. We've talked about this before, you know.
It's true.
Yeah, but I think the way that you deal with your children and our household situation a lot of times just comes from the only child mentality.
Yeah.
You know, and you're so aware of it. Your way of fixing it is everything has to be even. It all has to be even. It all has to add up. Every kid has to be 100%. And that's something that we've talked a lot about in counseling.
And I have been brought to light about that. Like, I have seen a different perspective and accepted it. I'm working on that.
And you're working on it.
I'm working on that.
You don't just hear it or see it and it's like, oh, okay, that's there. Mm-hmm. You're very, very good at follow through. When a problem is brought to light and it's something that you can do within yourself, you're very strong and passionate about solving problems and fixing things and working
Thanks.
through them and trying to better yourself or the family or a situation.
Yeah,
So,
thanks. I
so
appreciate that.
I'm not bringing this up to put you down. I'm bringing this up to let our viewers know, listen, like you might struggle like this. And also, I might be an only child or my
Yeah.
spouse might be an only child. And maybe that's part of it. And if you're listening to this right now and you're like, oh, my spouse is an only child. That's what's wrong with our that's what's wrong with our marriage. I'm gonna go punch them, take the kids, and this is exactly how it's gonna work. That's not my point to this. My point is you might have grown up completely different than your spouse. You might come, like you just said, you have a totally different bag of tools than my box of tools. You know what I mean? Like we're working from two totally different work sites here.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you're still trying to build the same house and the same mansion and the same building,
Yeah.
you know?
Definitely. And, I remember we were this probably was even in premarital counseling. No, it was in our marriage counseling because this was another epiphany I had and I kind of had to latch onto. Because your parents have been married for 38 years.
Yes.
My parents have each been married. My biological parents have both been married 3 times. So even that, we see things very different.
Yeah.
And, that came up in marriage counseling. It was like I told her that my only this is when like we were first starting to go and she was getting to know us as a couple. And I had expressed to her that my one huge concern getting married to you was that we have nothing in common. Like we share no hobbies.
I remember that conversation.
We share nothing. And I said, it seems to be okay for these past years, but I don't know if it's going to be okay forever. And I fear like as the kids grow up and we don't have that, then are we both going to just spend our time doing our own things separate when the kids leave because we've got nothing together? And I was just saying like that is my biggest concern, and it's still a huge concern of mine, but I'll never forget you looked at me and you said, well, my parents have been married for 37 years. I think it was 37, 38 years at the time. And you said, they don't share hobbies.
They don't.
It's a not necessary piece. Like, don't worry about it. Like, you were basically like, my parents, your parents, it wasn't.
My point was they have their own hobbies, but they enjoy just spending time with one another. They don't, and they find things to do, and they're still finding things to do.
Different phases of their life.
They just took up kayaking within the last year,
Right.
and they enjoy doing that.
Right.
I realize this with us, and we talk about this, and you're very open to trying things. I have
as long as it doesn't make me motion sickness.
I know, but
motion sick.
Yeah, but I'm trying to create a new hobby world realm for us and our whole family right now.
I know you're obsessive about it.
Well, it's something I like the car racing.
It's just your personality.
Yeah, but like car racing and
It's
stuff,
not
like when I'm like
Yeah.
something I used to do way before we were ever anything. And I remember at the beginning of our relationship, you were into, fun, fast cars and going fast. And, I remember one time I had picked you up and, we were driving down the freeway and you were loving, we were flying. You were having
We're going
such a good
straight.
time. So
Yeah.
then I'm like, all right, well, cool. I'll get everything lined back up again. We'll start going to the track. I get you out to the track. You don't even make it 2 warm-up laps. You're like, I need out of the car. You're sick the rest of the day.
I had to go. I vomited and then had to lay in the truck the entire day. It was so sad. It was miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, well, that's out. And that kind of, excuse me, that kind of lowers my fun level at that point. How many times have I been to the track since then?
I'm sorry. I like and
it's not
see
you.
there. Yes,
No.
there's this huge guilt that I have for that.
But this is what
though.
you do. You take this, and all of a sudden, it's your problem. I'm not putting this on you at all. I'm okay with that. It's who you are.
Like
It's
I
the
physically
situation.
can't help it.
I'm not asking for excuses. Like you don't need to.
It's not an excuse. It really is.
Yeah,
what it
you don't
is.
need to explain it. Like I totally saw it. I understand it, It's not like you're just like against my hobby and don't want anything to do with it and whatever. So that makes me stop a little bit and go, okay, well, I don't want to spend all my days doing this then, because that's not something that you and I can do together. My son loves going. My daughter loves going, you know? Your kids haven't been to the track with me, but your kids wouldn't love the track. And I only know that because we've taken them out in the truck at the dunes, and both of them were like, stop. We don't want to drive fast. We don't want to, we don't want to jump.
Yeah.
Let's go back to driving just straight and slow,
Yeah.
So that makes me stop where I am and go, okay, we need something else as a family. We need another hobby as a family,
Right.
And I'm not the type of person that's like, okay, well, let's all go play croquet in the backyard.
No, you need like Fast and Furious in your life.
Yeah.
You need toys.
Yeah. And
it's what it is.
And it's weird because my parents didn't make me this way. My parents are totally not like this, They've just learned to accept me.
Yeah. And I'm different from you that way. I don't need toys.
Yeah.
I
get bored with things, And wouldn't you rather me get bored with toys than bored with a relationship? But
that is what I'm saying is like, I think that's one of my biggest fears is like, I'm happy to just be like lay low. And I love to do things that are like, I like to go to the movies. I like to read books. I like to go to the beach. I like to go see shows. Like there's so much I like to do, but that just bores you.
Not necessarily. How many movies and how many shows?
You do it, but it's not like you're like, oh, let's go to the movies tonight. Never, except for, yeah.
We literally just went to the movies 2 days ago.
It was so good.
Yeah, and then we went to the movies 2 weeks prior to that, and we went to a show that same weekend, and
I feel like you do it. I just don't feel like we share. You will do it. But I don't feel like it excites you. Like the only things that really excite you are like Fast and Furious things. And again, that's not me.
Yeah, but it's it's not your day-to-day average thing that, when you can do these things all the time. If I was at the track every single day, or on the lake every single day, it wouldn't excite me. But when I go once a month or, every couple of weeks or here and there, it's something fun to look forward to,
Right.
We just have a different threshold when it comes to
we do
what it takes.
Yeah.
But doesn't mean that I dislike doing any of that stuff. I'm more than happy to go do that stuff with you, and I enjoy it. Like the movie that we saw this past weekend was wonderful. Yeah. It was a great time.
But don't you feel like, I think there's often times, and this is like how I self-sabotage myself. It's like I'm like, there's probably someone out there so much better suited for you.
There'll always be. I mean, it doesn't. No, I'm just saying. I'm saying for everyone. No, my point is like
amazing.
Oh my gosh, this is our relationship.
That was just amazing. Oh, there'll always be someone better suited for you.
Well, there'll always be greener grass on the other side. The grass is always greener on the other side. There will always be someone who has the same hobby as you. There will always be someone who, they fill different boxes, but our relationship as a whole, we check off so many more boxes and so many more meaningful ones versus all these superficial ones. And I think that's a big problem that kids these days have, with these dating apps and, just the internet access. They're so superficial. They go for looks first. The very first thing that matters is looks. If you're on a dating site, they're scrolling through till they find someone that fits this perfect looks box.
Yeah.
Then the next thing. Or that's all that matters at that point. And it doesn't matter. They're going to hang out and hook up with this person. And then the issues come.
Yeah.
And that could be the first time they meet up, and that could be the first week,
Yeah.
But you don't see long, meaningful relationships like you once did. And I think our generation was kind of the start of that.
Yeah.
Versus like, the word courting doesn't even exist in our society these days.
No, I mean, how many times do men actually plan out a date and like, I want to take you out tonight, huh? That's courting. That's what people say when you never stop dating your spouse. It's just you're supposed to put time and thought and effort and make a plan and take them and show them that they're special. Like that is what courting is, and that doesn't happen. It's like Netflix and chill.
Yeah,
like let's put the least amount of thought into doing something that
men
ends
don't
with sex.
do that, and women are so caught up in their social media that when men actually do that, women don't remember because they can't remember if they actually saw that on Sex and the City or they watched that on Friends or if their husband actually did that. So it doesn't matter anyways. We're all missing the boat. So
yeah, I'm just saying you're right. Courting is a thing that isn't very well thought out anyway. Croquet.
Someone wants to play croquet with me?
Okay, wait. Chris and I are watching together, and I think he's having a bromance with Eric.
Oh,
you guys
yeah?
are cracking us up.
I heard he used to play hockey too. You play a little bit of hockey?
Yeah, he used to. So it's funny because I have watched him play hockey when we were married at Flippo's. I'd go there for hockey all the time. And there
It's
was
like as big as our kitchen.
gnarly fights. Like I just remember gnarly fights at Flippo's, and then he would play at Santa Maria, where you play now. I've
Before
watched
it was
tons
ever
of
sport
hockey
court?
there.
Back when it was like
I don't know, but he used to go down
concrete.
there for hockey too.
Yep.
So it would be both places anyway. Hockey is just meant to be.
I know. Too bad I'm not wearing shorts tonight. You
Yeah.
should see the welt. I haven't even showed you yet. I got a good.
You can
good
take your
slap
pants
shot.
off and show us all.
I got a good slap shot to the leg the other day, and then I got a slap shot to the ear the other night. My ear looks like black Shrek's ear.
Yeah, I was
It's getting a little
I'm
better,
like,
but-
don't get cauliflower ear, because then I won't love you.
Yeah. and
Or
lost
we'll have
teeth
to like
and-
pay for plastic surgery. That's so nasty.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to get cauliflower ear ever. All right. Anyway, but we're in marriage counseling. Do you feel like it is helping, hindering, furthering, stunting? What do you think about our therapy?
It does it all.
Okay.
It does it all. Our very first session, I was like, I hate this. I remember how angry I walked away from it.
Oh, you did not talk to me for a long time after our first therapy session.
Because all it was a total sesh about me and things going on. And I was just like, I'm just going to sit here and be a punching bag because I'm really not one to lash out and like I'm going to fight this. I have to be angry. And usually at that point I see red and I'm playing hockey and then I'm knocking someone's teeth out, which I haven't done in a long time.
Yeah, you've gotten kicked off the court a few times.
Not recently, have I?
In slow more than it's only was hockey is a joke, but whatever. We won't go there.
You know what's funny?
What?
Is I have every single season, including this one, shut down, like done, game is over, we're not playing anymore.
Yes. Yes, you're very aggressive. Yes.
Whoops.
Yeah, so you think it's doing our first time didn't go well, but I
No.
think that's because too, like, listen, I've been in therapy.
You're like a therapy pro.
I love therapy.
We're gonna call you TheraPro.
It took
That's your
me,
next
listen.
T-shirt. Look it, we're gonna have to go back and listen to all of our. We're on 13.
Hashtags.
This is our 13th podcast, right?
Sure.
It is. I think so. That's our lucky 13.
But I will say I have been in therapy for 8-9 years, and it took anyway. So I guess I'm so used to going to therapy and getting to the heart of the matter. It's expensive. Like, I'm not here to fluff you. You're not here to fluff me. Like, I'm very much like, we're here. Let's get to the heart of the matter. Like, you can speak your truth. I don't expect you to love me all the time.
And
or
I don't
feel
need
like
that
I'm-
fluffing.
But yes, you did. You're like, oh, I thought we were going to get to know each other for a while
I thought we were going
before."
there to work on our relationship. I thought we were going there to
Well, you go
work
and
on
you
things.
talk about the hard stuff, not the,
But it
this
was
is
like-
so great. This is so great. We're so great. It's like,
No, but I've
no,
never
we're
come
not
into
here
a
for
room
that.
with a hammer that big and hit someone so hard. I'm just like,
just in hockey.
you just threw it out. I don't even, no, I use my fist for that.
Mm.
I don't use hockey sticks. They're too light. They're too light these days.
You'd break them
They weigh
anyway.
nothing.
So yeah, I mean, I think that we just came at it, I was there to be like, okay, let's jump in deep end. I know what it's about. And I think you were
Yeah.
just like taken aback by
I
that.
need my floaties.
Yeah. And that's okay. But we've kind of, as much as you got
now
served.
You hate it, and I like it.
Yeah, because now you got served, and now I'm getting served, which is fine.
Which is cool because I don't have to do the serving. I just sit there and listen.
Dude.
You do all the talking.
That's not
You
true.
get all the punishment.
She does. She kind of hates me a little bit.
She does not, but she's very real. She
and
sees
I think
things.
her and I butt heads because me too.
Yeah, because you
I
say
call
things
her
and
out
I'm
on
like,
that. Yeah, you're like, why are you saying that?
why are you saying that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or she'll be like,
but
like,
I also love that
and I'm
she
like,
will say,
no, I don't understand.
but she will say things to you that I just don't have the heart to say to you. Where I'm like, yeah, thank you.
You're like wanting to stand up and cheer.
Slip her a 20, like, yes, thanks for saying that.
Yeah,
I give her a list of things.
Same.
Yeah.
I've totally felt that same way in therapy where I'm like, thank God it's not just me.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody else sees. And this is from you talking. Like
Yeah.
she's come to conclusions just from how you're describing things. And I'm like, exactly.
Yeah. And that's all right.
Because I think it's important. Like sometimes you need, what's wonderful about counseling or therapy in a marriage is you need a third party to validate. Because I think we have our
I'm going to
spouse-
start calling it a threesome. People are like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to a threesome.
You like threesomes. So,
Is
I
your
mean,
mom watching?
threesomes are your thing.
Yeah, is your mom
I've
watching?
heard from you. Anyway, but it's helpful because I think that you've painted me out as crazy.
I have not. You don't even let me talk in there. You do all the talking, and you know what? I might carry the bucket, but you're the one that does the painting.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Great.
I wish that we could record these and put those on air.
I hope she listens. Like, I'm like, please just listen to our podcast and fix us.
And you know what? If
I wonder if she does. I'm
if
like,
she
please.
does, let me know
Love it.
next time. Just straight up tell me, like, you paint her out as crazy. And I'll accept that
No,
if she
I'm not.
says
Okay,
that.
not in therapy. I'm sorry. I don't mean that. I mean, I feel like married couples often.
Oh, you're crazy.
Yeah. Behind closed doors in their homes, right? You know, he's an asshole. She's crazy. No, married couples do this. Like, women are always crazy. Women are emotional. We're batshit crazy. But men are the assholes. And so we paint each other in such these, like, we excuse or put behaviors, bad behavior. Oh, she's just crazy. Oh, he's just a jerk. And I think it's so cool to have a therapist to be like, to validate that you're not actually crazy and to have your spouse
I
here.
don't think
like,
you're crazy.
I'm just talking in general.
I'm just saying.
Okay. Well, that's good. Noted. I'll watch this again or listen to it when I need to.
Yeah, you can bring it up one day. I mean, I might have some other choice words for you, but crazy's not one of them.
Oh, it wouldn't be the worst thing I've heard.
That could be.
Yeah. Jeez.
I'm just kidding.
But anyway, so I think so therapy is good in that regard. It's nice to have a third party to kind of set the record straight or to ask the questions or say the things you don't have the heart to say. You know, I think it's easier to hear it from somebody you're not emotionally invested in versus hearing it from somebody that you have to live with, cohabitate with, make love to. Or not if you're mad.
Yeah.
You know, but I think that it's helpful to hear it from somebody else. You're more accepting to receive that than from your spouse because you're so emotionally invested.
Well, and you're not wrapped up in it in that day,
Yeah.
and you're like, yes, this is someone else looking at it, and like, maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I'm right, or maybe neither of us are right. You know, maybe this isn't an issue or a fight at all.
Yeah. You know what I'm wondering? I'm wondering. So we've been in therapy for 3 months now.
Sure.
I don't know. It's been months. And I'm like, when are we done? Do
Whenever
we
we wanna
graduate
be.
therapy?
No, but
like,
she has talked about us going longer and longer. And we started going once a week.
Yeah.
And then she said that it would start spreading out because we need to be able to work on these things by ourselves. And then we will work on them by ourselves.
So, well, this is interesting too. Something that she said to me, she kind of challenged me on the fact that I've been going to therapy for 8-9 years.
I thought about this when you said this.
Yeah. She was like, then your therapist is not doing their job because nobody should be in therapy with the same, like for that long consistently. And I go once a month. It's not like I'm in my therapist's office every week. But she was just, her opinion is that if you're in therapy that long, then your therapist isn't giving you or helping you get the tools you need. By Instagram, sorry.
Oh.
Your therapist isn't giving you the tools you need to live the life without therapy. And so she was kind of saying it's a business, it's a money thing. So she invited me to really examine that, and I wasn't happy to receive that.
You weren't at all. You were so bummed. You're like, I love therapy. But I see both sides of it.
Yeah,
I think she's completely right. And I have voiced this before to you before, and you didn't like it, and it like turns into like me attacking you, and you feel like I'm attacking you, and you don't love that, and I'm like,
no one loves to be attacked. I'm just
not
saying,
talking about this. Well, because it used to be a joke, like, oh, do you have to pay me in order to like listen to what I say? Because I would give you a lot of advice when you would ask for things, and then you just wouldn't take it. And then you would go to therapy, and then you would come back, and you'd be like, oh, guess what I'm doing? I'm like, yeah, I just told you that 2 weeks ago. Yeah, and now you're going to go pay, how much an hour?
Yeah.
And then you'll take the advice. So for a little while there, I was kind of bitter because I'm like, we have these conversations, or we wouldn't have a conversation. It's like, you're going to pay someone to go talk to them, and like, I'm right here, like, talk to me, Yeah,
but you're not always fun to talk to.
So I'm your spouse.
So
I'm going to, okay, I'm going to go pay a woman. I'm going to go talk to her.
We do pay a woman to talk to.
Yeah. Both of us. I know. That's how I'm going to start.
Referring to it.
That's
fine. But I will say, you're right. But I haven't gone. Oh, sorry.
But I also see your point of it.
Oh, what's that? Tell me my point.
You aren't still in there working on one thing. You're not working on one issue. You're not still focused on one thing. You go in there and you take in a new issue, or you take in a past issue that's come up. There's been a lot of things that you have worked through, and I've seen that help you as well. I don't see you just going in there and like, I'm not sure what I'm going to talk to today. There's been times where you've gone in there and you're like, this major thing's going on that I might not be able to help you with. And it's helped you talk through it. And he's been like, look, you need to drop this. You need to let this go. And he's giving you some sound advice, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But having it on a regular routine, routine maintenance, like, I'm just going to go pay someone to talk to him. Like,
well, once a month is reasonable. I think
that's what God said when he invented women. Anyways, bad joke.
Bad joke.
Red button.
Red button yourself. I think that, one person, she's not just because you're a therapist doesn't mean you're right. First of all.
Oh, totally.
No one has that kind of clarity and, I don't know, knowledge and wisdom. Like, I'm just all knowing and I'm right. So, but I think that especially where I was when I started therapy to today, I can't even tell you how much life has turned and twisted and changed. And, life isn't stagnant. So I don't really love the fact that she's like, they're not giving you tools. Well, like, to your point, what I'm working through now is very different than what I was working through when I started therapy. It was like, am I going to leave my marriage? I'm so unhappy in my marriage. Tell me what to do. And it took me 1.5 years of therapy to figure that out. Okay. And then it was like, I'm getting divorced. Holy hell. That was like a process to go through, and all of that. And then like co-parenting, and those issues were really hard to go through. I had daddy issues to figure out, truly. And then it was like...
This is exactly what I just said, though. Like, this was my point.
But I'm giving people examples, like, so then it was like meeting you and dating, and what does dating with kids look like? And is that okay? And then like, oh, I think we're moving in together. What does that look like? Then we're engaged, and then we're getting married. And so, because life is not stagnant, that it was inappropriate kind of for her to put that out there when she has no idea.
No, but what her point is, and I totally see her point of it, is life is always going to happen. If you would not have been in therapy, would all that stuff still happen?
I don't know.
All that stuff would have still happened. You still would have gone through a divorce. You still would have
maybe not
co-parented. You still would have had daddy issues. you know, all of this stuff would have still happened. And it might have not been the exact same things in the exact same way because the stars would have lined differently.
Mm-hmm.
But life would have still happened.
Yeah,
you
but
wouldn't have died. But to her point is, your therapist should have given you over the time the tools to be able to recognize, hey, I have an issue. I have to deal with something.
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to deal with this? How do I reflect this? How
Yeah, but if I'm fixing a dishwasher and painting a painting, the tools are completely freaking different.
They are.
They are. So every situation requires a different set of tools.
Yeah, but at one point in time, your toolbox should be pretty big that you should be able to fix just about anything.
I'm not Jesus, sorry.
I'm not saying that you are.
Like,
but I'm saying that, for instance, metaphorically,
mm-hmm.
I have acquired enough tools over the years in my toolbox out in the garage
Mm-hmm.
that if you bring me a vehicle,
like the Land Rover that we can't change the oil on because we don't have the tool.
however, I could, yes.
Yes.
Now I've got another type of wrench, but I'm afraid of scratching your oil cap.
Right. Okay, so you have to order a different tool right now.
Yes, I could. However,
specifically.
the entire rest of that project, not a problem. You know? Yes, I just changed valve seals on a car the other day. That would have cost me, or the other month, that would have cost me X amount of money.
That wasn't amazing. I would like to take a minute and just say how amazing that was. Can you say for those car lovers out there what kind of car? Like, can you tell everyone that?
It was.
I'm so proud of it. It was impressive.
It was a valve seal job in my Alpina B7, to put that out there.
If you are a car person, you mean
The
there's
dealership
tools.
would have charged me $20,000
And you did
to
it yourself.
freaking change some valve seals.
You gave him the big bird.
Which
you
I
You flipped him
understand.
the bird instead
Yeah.
of doing it myself. He's a car guy though, so
But
I
it
mean,
took me,
he
yeah.
works
But
on
it took like a
everything.
month of like a few hours here and there doing this thing.
Yeah,
But anyways,
that was really
though,
special. That was
to
cool.
my point though,
Yeah.
and even if we're not even talking about tools and we're talking metaphorically and we're talking about just being able to do it,
Mm-hmm.
I had never done valve seals on an N62 engine before. I have never, you know what I
Right.
mean? However, I have enough knowledge and enough know-how to be able to be comfortable to go, okay, I'm going to break into this engine. I'm going to take this whole thing apart and I'm going to work on it. And I might need to take my time, and it might take longer than a full BMW tech to do this, but I am going to do this. And I think that's to her point is, if you're going to be in therapy for that long, you need to be building your toolbox or your box of knowledge to be able to deal with life situations, because otherwise you will be in therapy for the rest of your life, because life will happen. You will always have a different hurdle to jump over or a different set of...
True. I don't disagree. Yeah.
You know.
So.
Anyways, I see both sides of it.
Yeah, and to put a, but I think too, like, you know, to have that person who doesn't have a dog in the fight, you know, who doesn't know anybody else in your life. He doesn't know my ex-husband. He doesn't know my ex-husbands. He doesn't know my current husband. You know, I mean, he doesn't know my parents. He doesn't know my kids or my stepkids. You know what I mean? He doesn't. So it's just to have, like, I can go say the most offensive. I can go be my most true self and say the hurtful stuff that would hurt my mom, hurt my dad, hurt my
me,
friends,
I'm sure.
hurt you, hurt the kids. You know what I mean? I can go. It's a safe place to be able to go and just lay it out there, and that in of itself is such a gift. It's such a gift to have someone that you can just be like, this is shit and I don't want to do it anymore. Or whatever it is, you know? Like, so there's that side of therapy too. I'm just talking in general. I'm not talking about having someone for 10 years. If you don't believe that's the right thing to do, then don't do it. You know? You have to do what works for you, but it is helpful.
You have to be able to afford it. Therapy or lawyer. Do I want to have a blended family, or do I want to have peace of mind in life?
Yeah, but there's a lot of good parts to therapy. It's definitely challenging.
I've seen both. There's times where I'm like, this is the dumbest thing you do. You can't go out for a lunch date, but you can go get off work to go to therapy.
Once a month.
Hey.
And I haven't even
when was
been
the last time we had a lunch date?
But I haven't even been in, like, do we need to start having lunch dates? You've been bringing this up a lot.
Well, because you stop taking them, and then all of a sudden, like, you're going lots of places during lunchtime now.
Twice.
Like, well, in 1 week.
Twice. And one
In
was
1
with
week.
Your daughter.
which I love. I'm not even mad about that. But none of them were with me, and I'm your spouse. Anyways.
See, good to know. We'll talk about it in therapy tomorrow. We're going to therapy tomorrow at 11.
We are.
We'll talk about that in therapy tomorrow at 11.
That's fine.
That's
I
fine.
have no qualms with that.
Anyway, we still haven't even said if marriage counseling, if you would you tell people to go?
I think it's a good thing.
You
It
do.
gets you communicating.
It
And
does.
it's a safe place to take off the gloves.
And you're not your true self in therapy with your spouse. I'd like to say that.
Or you are.
No.
Oh. I feel like I can
There's that.
approach you
We'll
better
end on that.
because I have someone else listening.
Yeah, but you don't react in your real self. Like you hold back
It makes
a
me
lot.
think like, all right, I need to
You're
be more-
like you mind your P's and Q's.
Speaking of peas, it's time to make dinner.
I actually am going to tap class.
Okay.
I'm going to go dance now, you guys.
Hey guys.
Thanks for joining us.
Give us a thumbs up if you're listening, or thumbs down and unsubscribe. Do what's
Don't
best.
do that.
Do what fits your needs. But thanks you guys for watching and
Yeah.
listening and tuning in.
Appreciate it.
And we're at 2,000 listens on our podcast. So I'd just like to thank everyone who's religiously listening to us. That's awesome. And if you guys have any questions, email her and ask me.
Yeah.
And
We always love to hear what you guys want us to talk about.
our podcast will just continue to get longer and longer, like to the point to where our songs don't even close out our show anymore.
That's true. Jessica just said, I think this podcast is therapy.
For who?
True that.
Right.
Oh,
All right,
I'm
you
going to go. I'm leaving you. I'm going to class.
Well, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, we appreciate you guys.
It was awesome hanging out with all of you.
See you next week.
We'll talk to you later.
Bye.